Some of our strongest subconscious limiting beliefs have been ingrained in us from such a young age that we're likely not even able to remember what created them. And in some cases, these subconscious beliefs may lay dormant in their manifestation of limitations in our lives. And when I talk about limitations, I'm talking about self sabotaging behaviors, habits, and thought patterns that lead us to go somewhere other than in alignment with our highest self. So, in this three-part segment, I am actually going to talk about the moment when I gave up my personal power. And this is my trigger moment that has impacted me for almost 15 years of my life and actually has only begun really clearing itself up in the past 4 years or so. So this is, I had it in my mind of how I was going to do this talk of when I gave up my personal power. I was going to go through set bullet points, have lessons and learnings for you guys to take away. And when I looked at my notes, I realized that there were no bullet points there. And then I further realized that all of these ideas and the organization for this came from a journal entry. So, what I'm really excited to bring is in these next two parts, I am going to be reading directly from my journal, just all real, all raw on this pivotal moment that I realized through a meditation that changed my life. And it's not going to be a formal bullet point form, it's going to be my story and places where you can see where all of these concepts are coming into play without me having to teach them to you or explain them to you. And a lot of them I know that you'll be able to relate to in some way or another. So this is really great. So I definitely want you to stick with me through this video, this short video, and then parts 2 and 3 of the moment when I gave up my personal power. So these are a couple of things that we're going to be talking about. When being me and simply being good at what I do stopped being enough. We're going to talk about the power in your authenticity and making decisions that may be unpopular, you may get in trouble for, you may be hated for, but at the end of the day, they're aligned with your personal values and how much power lies in the strength and ability to do something like that. The next thing that we're going to talk about is, this is a big one for a lot of people I know, dimming your light so that the people around you can be made to feel more comfortable. Huge thing that showed up for me in this moment. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is the blessing and the curse of heightened awareness. So this kind of deals with the concept, the opposite of the concept of ignorance is bliss. And sometimes we may think that this heightened awareness is going to make us feel better. And oftentimes, especially in my case, it could actually make you feel worse. Because one, just because you have a heightened awareness more so than maybe the people around you or the people in your age group, doesn't necessarily mean that you have the tools or even the upper level of heightened awareness to do something about it if there is a problem. And also being the person that actually can see something that the people around you can't see and trying to unveil that to other people who aren't on that awareness level yet, with me specifically, made me feel even more out of place than I was already feeling. So it's a double-edged sword here. The next thing that is going to be really important that I'm going to discuss as I'm moving through seeing this journey from the eyes of myself now is having compassion for the self and understanding that I, or wherever you are doing the best that you can with the things that you have. And self-correction is you're only able to self-correct to the degree of your awareness. And we get to not blame ourselves for not being aware at any given time. And the two, I would say, most powerful things that have showed up for me that I'm going to get to in part three is how I sabotaged myself in order to prove myself to others. And I did this by making decisions that were out of alignment with my core values. And at the time, I didn't know that they were my core values yet. But this is really, really key. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about values alignment. We have another workshop coming up, and we had one last month that was really incredible and a lot of insights and awarenesses from the group. But we're talking about how my decisions that I made were more ego driven than spirit driven. And when we make decisions that are more ego driven than spirit driven, usually happening when we are not truly aware of our true core values, we end up unhappy or in places that we didn't expect to be in, or places that are more difficult than we thought that they would be. And that's really, really key here going into the last concept that we're going to talk about is goal title versus state of being. And essentially what that means is that a lot of times we will set goals based off of a particular title or representation or maybe a material attainment that we would like to have. And all we want to do essentially is feel a certain way. And we attach this feeling with having this title or having this degree, having this position, having this possession. And what we fail to realize a lot of times is that that feeling that we're associated with the title that we're going to have is not necessarily required, or it doesn't automatically come with having the title. Just because we get this title doesn't mean that we're going to feel happy, that we're going to feel fulfilled, that we're going to feel successful, that we're going to feel loved and wanted and really, good about ourselves. And the big thing here is that we want to make sure that the decisions that we're making and the goals that we're setting, that if we are going for something, that we make sure that the feeling along the way is something that we want. And again, that decision and that goal that we're after is not ego driven, but is spirit driven. And by spirit driven, we're talking about the ends that we are actually going to reach is what we want to feel from accomplishing a particular goal, not the on paper title of the goal itself. So stick with me. We have two more parts coming up. This is part one. Part 2 and 3, I'm going to be reading directly from my journal here for you guys, all the way real. See you soon.